the critic, regardless of what the federal, state, or local government says, the World Health Organization, the United Nations, doesn't matter. They criticize everything for it. For example, it's kind of a silly example, but Ilya, you should wear a mask when you go outside. Well, that's stupid. Okay, Ilya, never wear a mask when you go outside. What are you trying to kill me? Like, no matter what comes up, they will criticize everything and everyone. Now we get to the third personality type, which we like to call the bystander. Now, mind you, this is a good person, but they're so overwhelmed by the changes taking place that think about the deer of the headlights look. That's the best way to describe the bystander. Frozen, paralyzed, in fear. They might look to the left, look to the right, look to their neighbor, but basically they don't do anything. And what all three of these personality types have in common is this. None of them move the needle forward. None of them offer a solution or have a positive resolution to the challenges. Basically, they do nothing. Now we come up to the fourth personality type, which we like to call the navigator, which is really the premise of not only the book, but of this talk to how to manage and successfully navigate challenges. But before I go on to tell you what the navigator does, this is an important point. All four of those personality types exist within each human being. And this is kind of like my clinical psychologist hat that I'm wearing right now. In other words, we're all four of those personality types. And how does it work? Just to give you an example, back in March, when the first lockdown happened, all my speaking engagements got canceled within 1 week. I'm talking about every single one. Email after email got canceled. I was supposed to travel to Barcelona and speak, last October of 2020. I ended up doing the conference. It was on Zoom. Not the same thing as being in Barcelona, mind you. I've never been to Spain. So, did I have the deer with the headlights look? You're darn right I did. I was frozen in fear. I didn't know what hit me. I'm like, now what am I going to do? And did I feel like a victim? Like, why is this happening to me? Like, for me? Of course I did. Never mind that it's happening to 7 billion other people too. And have I been critical from time to time of some of the responses of the government during this, challenging time? You're darn right I haven't, rightly so, I believe. However, if I were to criticize the government for the last 12 months, I'm not hurting the government. I'm robbing myself of my own happiness and wellness. If I stayed into a victim mode and wore me down and depressed, I'm hurting myself. So the point is not that we'll never be victims or critics or bystanders, but if we're going to do that, let's do it for 2 hours. Not for 2 months, not for 2 weeks, and then let's move on and pivot and navigate. Because this book was a result of me navigating. I had all this free time all of a sudden. I had no plans to write a book in 2020 because my life was busy. I was booked solid. Guess what happened? We pivoted and navigated with my good friend Coach Khan. So one of the keys to navigating a crisis is listening, which I like to call listening with a third ear. Not our physical ears, but our spiritual ear. We all know what that voice sounds like. Whether you call it the Spirit of God, the Holy Spirit, I don't care what you call it, your intuition, your inner wisdom, that still small voice, which means we have to get really quiet. Listen to that voice. And then more importantly, when you get the message, act upon it. And this is one of the few absolutes in life. And I've listened to that voice for the last 30, 35 years of my life. Multiple times, sometimes multiple times a day. Every time I've listened to that voice and acted upon it, it has always worked out, you guys. It always worked out. But because I'm not a perfect human being, there have been plenty of times when I heard the voice and I ignored it. Well, guess what happens when you ignore that voice? You pay a huge price. So get quiet, whether it's through meditation, through prayer, however you do it, and listen and trust that inner wisdom and that inner voice and then act upon it. Number two, and that's something that a navigator does consistently, and this has to do more with resiliency, which is I guess that's a word that you will be hearing a lot lately, to be resilient, flexible, and adaptable. And how does this work, and why is this important? Let's use the analogy of the oak tree and the palm tree when it comes to flexibility. The oak tree, as you know, is this massive, huge, strong, powerful tree, like 100 feet high, right? powerful, majestic. But at the peak of the storm, if there's enough saturation on the ground and enough wind, what happens to oak trees? They come crashing down. People, cars, homes, and so on. We see that after every hurricane, right? On the flip side, the palm tree, which is kind of cute at the top, it's kind of relatively thin. At the peak of the storm, and now what's the thing about the storms of life, it'll bend. And sometimes it bends parallel to the ground at the peak of the storm. But when the storm passes, and every storm in life does pass, by the way, what happens to the palm tree? It rises up again, and it survives and stands tall. And actually, interestingly enough, its roots are actually deeper and stronger because it had to hold on for dear life during the storm. So, what I want to share with you is, in life, be a palm tree, don't be an oak tree. So, as I've done so many interviews about this, people have asked, well, Dr. Igley, that's
no, in a storm, you should be a mighty oak.
Oak tree and so on. But what does an oak tree sound like in human terms? So, if somebody's an oak tree, it sounds like this, basically. Well, I've been this way for 40 years. I'm not going to change now. This is the way things are done around here. I've always been this way. Okay, that's an oak tree. And guess what happens to oak trees during a crisis? They break. So if you think you can continue doing things as you did before all these crises, as business as usual, you're sadly mistaken. And I work a lot with senior leaders in organizations, the C-suite, chief HR officers, and so on. And what I share with them is, now is not the time to dig in your heels. Now is the time to be flexible and adaptable, because out of that comes creativity, innovation, and so on.
Any comments?
And because I'm a sports nut, here's another, simple example. Think about professional players. Football, baseball, basketball, whatever. The top elite athletes that get paid millions and millions of dollars per game. Before the game starts, what are they doing out there in the field? They're always out there in the field for about half an hour before the game starts. They're stretching. Now, why are these people stretching, right? These are the best physical specimens we have on this planet, right? They're stretching because if they don't, they're going to pull a hamstring and they're going to injure themselves even worse than that. So now you and I are both elite athletes in the game of life, right? So we need to practice flexibility and adaptability. I'm telling you, as it required for us to go outside of our comfort zone, you're done right, it does. And listen, we're Christians, I'm happy. We like the comfort zone. That's why we stay. That's why it's called the comfort zone. But no growth has ever truly taken place, whether we're talking about it emotionally, mentally, physically, or spiritually, until we've exited the comfort zone and gone somewhere, even when we're afraid. Remember that courage is not that I'm never afraid about doing something. Courage is being afraid and still doing it anyway. So let's be courageous about that. Let's talk a little bit about gratitude. Do you know that physiologically you can't be grateful and depressed at the same time? Because when we're in a grateful state, our brain, there's chemicals that are released. You can't be depressed and grateful at the same time. Now, we all know this cute little phrase. Let's all have an attitude of gratitude. It's cute, it rhymes, and it's adorable.
I'm going to check to see if...
Grateful when things are going well. What's really hard is to be in a grateful state when things are not going well. And I heard Jessica talk about, loneliness and isolation and, peak numbers right now. Listen, we're all graduates from the University of Adversity. Every single one of us.
Can you hear?
You don't need letters after your name, PhDs, MDs, MBAs, and so on.
Yeah, you can.
From the same university. And the older we get, the higher the degree that we achieve. Meaning, inevitably in life, we're going to lose loved ones, starting off with our grandparents, and at some point our own parents that, we love. And often, sometimes a sibling, a significant other, a spouse, God forbid, a child, right? We're all going to suffer those losses. We're going to have financial setbacks, unemployment, underemployment, maybe foreclosure, maybe bankruptcy even. Just challenges financially to take care of ourselves and our loved ones. We're going to have health issues, cancer, diabetes, heart attacks. Now we'll throw in COVID on top of it. It's like it wasn't enough what we're facing health-wise in this world. So can we maintain a positive attitude, a grateful attitude in the midst of adversity? And I'm here to tell you, absolutely we can. And here's the way that we do that. Successful people or happy people in life have the same setbacks that the rest of us do. They have the same human frailties, the same weaknesses. They make the same mistakes like everybody else, except that they do three things differently. Number one,
They get back
they
up.
take personal responsibility for them. Like, this is on me. This is on Ilya. Nobody put a gun to my head to make that decision. I chose this. I own it. I'm accountable for it. Number two, they learn from it. And number three, which between you and I think number three is even more important. They have the ability to let it go. Meaning that if I made a mistake last year, I'm not going to carry it into this year. But if it happened last month, I'm not carrying it into this month, or last week into this week, or yesterday into today. Because every new day we have is a new opportunity for us to get things right. So how do they do that? They practice something that's probably one of the most difficult things, because it's just human nature. They practice and apply self-forgiveness. Remember that Gandhi said that forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. And self-forgiveness is even more important to overall sense of happiness and wellness. I'm kind of Greek, so I don't have a lot of guilt. So that comes easy to me. I tend to forgive myself. And the older I get, I can always blame old age. But I just let it go. Because in my experience working with thousands and thousands of people, most people wake up every day and put on an invisible backpack, on them that has 100 pounds worth of rocks, pebbles, stones, boulders in it, which represent, resentments, disappointments, discouragements. And that's how they walk through life. And I'm here to tell you, life is too short. Take off the backpack. Forgive yourself for things that have been done in the past. And my biggest takeaway from 2020, because I've had a lot of time to think and ponder it and meditate on. I call the 2020 as if some great big finger from the sky came down and pressed the pause button on humanity for everybody, for us to take some quiet time and to think and recognize what's really important in life. Well, you know what I've realized? This is I guess my own personal revelation from last years. Do not procrastinate your happiness. Happiness now. Most of us say, well, when I get a raise, or when the kids grow up, or when they get married, or when I'm in the right relationship, or when. Forget all the whens. There are no guarantees that any of us will be here next year, even next month. So let's try and live our best lives now. Do not procrastinate your happiness. Now, what else does the navigator do besides flexibility, listening to that third ear? Always has a positive attitude. In other words, these two shall pass. I know we're getting our butts kicked, and this has lasted way longer than I thought, by far. And the last 12 months have been very, very hard. But this is going to be the end of us. So we're learning, and we're moving forward. We're stumbling sometimes. We forgive ourselves, and so on. There are two biggest things that navigators do is they practice self-care, meaning they truly invest in their physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. And does that mean we have to change our lives completely now? Before the pandemic, I used to walk 3 days a week, a mile, for an hour, 3 miles a day. And I did it because I had to. I got gray hair, I'm getting older, I'm like, you got to start moving. Well, when the pandemic hit, and as my own stress level increased, take care of my family, my extended family, friends, my clients, and so on, that no longer worked. So starting in April, I started walking every single day, 7 days a week for a month. I don't care if it's snowing outside. I live in Boulder, Colorado. If it's cold, if it's hot, it's a non-negotiable. So I made a slight adjustment from 3 days to 7 days a week for an hour. I don't always take my phone with me there. And sometimes this is my time to connect with the universe, to listen to the birds, to appreciate the blue skies, or even the cold, to the trees. Just connect with nature, connect with myself, connect with God. And do you know that it's one habit that I changed? But consistency is the key. because now we're in, the end of February. I'm going 10 months now, and I've done it every single day. What happens if you change one habit after 365 days? You're in a completely different area of your life. And so physically, I'm not sure how much time we have. We may not have a few minutes. And I have a personal health assessment that I created that's available, and I can put it on the link, and certainly you can reach out to me. You can download it. It only takes 2 minutes, and it gives you really, how am I doing right now today, physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually? You'll have some strengths, and you'll have some other areas that you're struggling with. Now, we start with self-care, but we end with kindness, and this is the most important thing to end with service. I share with people, like, you want to get out of yourself, go out and practice an act of kindness. You know what's really interesting? Because I do so many interviews every day. I've had people push back on that, on live Zoom. They're like, Dr. Lee, are you serious? I'm depressed. I'm anxious. I'm stressed. I'm lonely. And you're asking me to go and help somebody else? What am I, my brother's keeper? I've actually used this is an actual quote. And you know what? I push back. You're not your brother's keeper. You're your mother's keeper, and your daughter's keeper, and your friend's keeper, and the homeless person's keeper down the street. Right? Because if you're listening to the sound of my voice, I guarantee you're better off than somebody else. Now, that takes care of 90% of the people that push back. There's still 10% that say, well, okay, that sounds, whatever. But, hey, I'm by myself. I'm in my apartment. I can't help anybody. And I'm like, wrong. That's completely wrong. Because if you're listening to that still small voice, to your intuition, if you get a name that comes to your mind, call them up. Text them immediately. Don't even ask why you do that. And more often than not, what is the worst thing that can happen? They can say, well, Ilya, why are you calling right now? It's midnight increase. But actually what has happened is, it's so interesting you would call me. I've been really struggling lately. So when I speak with leaders, and I'm going to switch over just for the last 60 seconds, when I speak with leaders in an organization, anyone who's a leader, anybody that has influence, anyone that has a direct report, I'm like, listen, from senior HR people, when you talk to your folks, even who are working remotely, don't ask them how they're doing. Because they're going to say, I'm doing fine.
No, they're not.
Close the door, lean to the camera, and say, when you use criticism, they come, Chris, how are you really doing? How's your family? How are your kids? Is there anything that I can do to make your life better or easier? In other words, be real. I call that hot communication, which means honest, open, transparent. Practice hot. And if you want extra credit, and this is where, the future leaders of this world, they need to step up, meaning greater emotional intelligence, be vulnerable, be real, say, you know what, I'm kind of struggling myself. My kids haven't gone to school for like nine months. It's crazy in my home. My wife, we're just, be real, be open, be vulnerable. Because when you do that, and when you're, I guess, come across, be authentic that way, guess what happens to that relationship with your folks that you work with? Trust, right? And when you establish that kind of trust, the rest is history. Because in relationships, I know the Beatles have this great, cute song, All You Need Is Love, da, 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 da. All You Need Is Love. It's a catchy tune. It was a #1 hit. Not accurate. In relationships, all you need is trust. Because I know a whole lot of couples that were, had love, but when trust was breached repeatedly, that relationship ended. So the foundation of the healthy relationships really is trust. And Chris, how are we doing with time? I feel like I'm getting close to my.
No, you're good. I put a message in, but I guess sometimes it pops up, sometimes it doesn't. Okay. So Dr. Ilya, I really enjoyed it. Michael Hurst enjoyed it. He thanked you. He said this is exactly what he needed to hear. I guess I'm really enjoying what you're saying, and it makes a lot of sense. I could only tell you that during the pandemic, the first couple months really is where I think a lot of us were in a fog to adjust human behavior. Like you said, it's like a bell went off, like different frequency here. And I remember calling my cousin in Greece. My cousin moved from the U.S. to Greece and invested all his money in the Greek real estate market years ago. And I don't have to tell you, he went from working all his life to retire there, and he lost everything. And all I did was I did what you said. I said, "How are you doing?" And then I just shut up and I said, "Well, how's it going really?" He started explaining how he can't pay his bills. He works, but there's not enough money. They took out a small mortgage to fix up their parents' home, but my uncle passed away, so there's no, Social Security helping, all this stuff. So I told Katie, and we were able to. I said, "Hey, we're going to send you something, not much, but we're going to help where we can." And he couldn't stop thanking me. And the funny thing is, Ilya, you're Greek, I'm Greek. I have relatives that are very well off, and they're accumulating that wealth. I don't know for what. We work hard, but no one bothered to call this one cousin that literally raised us. He was the older cousin that took all the cousins out for ice cream every Wednesday and Sunday. I remember growing up, but he keeps saying, he goes, "You're the only one that checked on me," and it's because I remember the kindness he had when I was a little guy. And you got to check on those people because they're never going to ask you for help. He's not the guy to ask you for help. He's not the guy to owe people money, and he doesn't owe me money. But that gift took a lot of pressure off of him because they have no tourism, as you know. So it's, I think the message that you're saying of humanity and reaching out to people and genuinely asking on a deeper level, not a surface level. I mean, what better time to do that than now, right? Where we have time to listen, or we should make time to listen, really.
And, happiness and kindness are connected. Happy people by nature, because their batteries are full, because they've practiced self-care, they have the ability to go out and help other people. It just comes natural. On the flip side, when we perform acts of kindness or acts of service, it does something to us. I know the receiver benefits, obviously, of that gift, but I can tell you the giver benefits just as much. So happiness and kindness are interconnected. You can't have one without the other.
Michael Hurst says, "I'm a retired police sergeant. I can attest that there are too many left without someone to hear them." Yeah.
I can't see
he's surprised
any of these comments.
Another level of stories out there. I wanna pay some gratitude here, Dr. Ilya, to your friend, my friend, Zach Demopoulos. Where are you, Zach? Unmute, unvideo yourself. Let's put you out here and thank you for setting this up. I'm grateful for you connecting all of us and having this amazing individual share his wisdom with us.
I tell you, it was a piece of cake. Your story is amazing, Chris. Really heartfelt. But I got to share. Dr. Elias came into my life just recently, like beginning of the year or the end of last year, and he helped me go through a tragic snowstorm after snowstorm in New Jersey. As a caregiver, a home care provider, snowstorms are the worst. These poor employees have horrible cars. They can't get to a client. Some of these clients, you can't leave them alone. And Dr. E, he really helped me not be a victim. He helped me not be a critic. He helped me not freeze. He helped me be a navigator. I'm indebted to you, brother. I really am. You helped me out tremendously. Listen, Marty was a hard act to follow. You nailed it, brother.
I got up and danced. Seriously, like I couldn't sit in my chair. We started to dance like 1 minute into it. I'm like, I can't sit here. I got to move around. It was awesome.
But listen, gratitude's all mine, Chris. Please, you do not need to say that. Gratitude's all mine. And thank you, Leah, for being a part of this. It was a great contribution. And there were a lot of questions, but there were a lot of participants.
You know what? Dr. Ellen in New York City, all the right people are here. She just put a message in the chat. Thank you, Zach, for arranging this. And she's been through, the doctors in the healthcare system have been through so much this year. Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize. I try and explain to people, like, when someone deals with life and death situations and now it gets accelerated in these hospitals and they're seeing it on a shift every time they go in, that level of stress, you have to show those people compassion because they're taking care of all of us out there, and it's not something you see because it's behind these walls. So, Dr. Leah, thank you so much for being part of our community. We appreciate you. If there's one thing you want to leave us with, I'm going to let you close us out.
Yeah, and I have a program called Self-Care for Healthcare, specifically for doctors and nurses, and I'm speaking to Doctors Without Borders, next month, in Europe, because they are on the front lines. They're the true heroes, right? But they also sometimes suffer from not taking care of themselves while they're taking care of their patients. The last thing I want to share is this: we're all going to exit this life at some point.
That's right.
And the goal and the purpose of this life is to die empty. What do I mean by that? I mean that all the goodness that we have in our hearts, all the kindness that we have in our hearts, all the knowledge that we have, all the
Jesus.
we want to give it all away to serve humanity. So we have nothing left. Leave it all on the field of life, right? I don't want to get me in my life and say, man, I wish I would have shared that, or I wish I would help somebody. Not that. All the goodness and the kindness you have in your heart, go out and help other people, and you'll live a happy life that way.
So that's we're gonna leave on that, guys. Give everything you got, and I completely agree with that. Thank you, Zorba. Thank you, Dr. Iliak. What we call Zach Zorba over here. We love you guys. Have a great night. Thank you both. That was what a MedCon, mental health con, I should say. Everybody today was amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Iliak. We appreciate you. That was excellent. Kalinita. That means good night in Greek. Kalinita. Bye, guys. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
See, there's the chat, 31 chats. But I said, what am I doing wrong if I don't see all of the comments, even though I have 2 chats on my phone? Let me look in the actual session. There are 5 chats in this session. Were they chatting on Zoom? I don't know, but let me look and see if there's Okay, stream has ended. Stream has ended. Stream is live, but it's in Spanish. Tone break. All right. Let me check this out. Okay. All right. How many people are still here? 9? All right. I'm looking to see if there's something, A, for Purim, the holiday, which starts tomorrow night, or B, now who's on my steps? What the fuck? It's like Grand Central. Hold on a second. And my pulse is racing again. I didn't sleep last night. It's the day of the week my father died 6 years ago, and the day of the week my uncle died last year. But it jumped the day of the week, the date did, because of the leap day last year. So, who is just on my steps is what I'm trying to figure out. Where's my delivery? Let me check my delivery and see if it got delivered. Because it said it was getting delivered. Oh, today is the 24th. because I saw the truck was on the other side of the river a few hours ago, and my head is starting to throb. I said that if the medical issue didn't stop in 20 minutes, I was going to use my asthma inhaler, but I think it pretty much stopped till I heard the person on my steps. So right now I'm checking. Let's see if it says it was delivered. But what was that noise before? Did a bird fly into the building? Home. Past orders. Track package. Past orders. Track package. Arriving Wednesday, February 24th. See, I saw that notice this morning and said that's tomorrow. No, that's today. But it's still showing that the truck is on the other side of the river. Even though I think it was just delivered. Either that or I'm just losing my freaking mind, both of which are actual possibilities at this point. All right, I'm looking. I'm writing down my quote of the day. All right, let me see if I got an email. And then I'll check my schedule. All right. New HAPS Android. There's a crystal healing panel tonight. Okay, Pablo, new Android app update is finally here. Full screen view while broadcasting. What are you waiting for? Get started on HAPS to go live today and tell your friends. And the link is in my broadcast. All right, I still cannot tell who was at my door. So I'm going to check my door. Hold on a minute. I'll be right back. Or should I hang this up? I'm going to hang this up.